Glasgow, Scotland, AP, cheering and marching to the beat of drums. Tens of thousands of climate activists paraded Saturday through the streets of the Scottish city hosting the UN Climate Summit, demanding that governments step up actions to reduce the use of climate-warming fossil fuels that are damaging the planet. The mood in Glasgow was upbeat despite bursts of rain, and the crowd was peaceful. Protesters condemned government leaders around the world for climate talks that activists say have so far failed to produce the fast action needed. Climate protests were also held in other cities across Europe, including London, Paris, Dublin, Copenhagen, Zurich, and Istanbul. "We're having these conversations, but there's no policies to actually back them," said Daisy Gaji, a marcher from London at the Glasgow demonstration, shouting over the steady beat of the drums. "And on top of that, the real people should be in the room," Agaji said, echoing complaints from climate advocates that the Glasgow summit has too sharply limited participation by the public. "How are we expecting to make decent policy when the people who are the stakeholders of this aren't even present in the room?" Marchers held signs with messages including Code Red for Humanity, "Stop Big Polluters," COP26, "We are watching you," or simply "I'm angry." Megan McClellan, 24, of Glasgow said she doubted that climate negotiators were listening. "This is a very easy thing for them to ignore. They're nice and comfortable inside the Summit Conference Centre." But her friend Lisette Wood, 30, of Edinburgh disagreed. "They might not actually do anything about it, but they pretend that they do, and they will just put it off for 20 to 30 years, Wood said. As marchers neared the climate summit, a rainbow arched through the sky. "Overwhelmingly, the protests make a difference," said Elizabeth May, a Canadian Member of Parliament and 16-time COP participant who was at the rally. "Most of the people on the inside are here in their hearts and sometimes physically." Inside the huge UN conference venue, negotiators knuckled down for a seventh straight day of talks to finish draft agreements that can be passed to government ministers for political approval next week. Among the issues being haggled over at the talks by almost 200 countries are a fresh commitment to capping global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, getting countries to review their efforts more frequently to increase the pressure for deeper cuts, and providing more financial support for poor nations to adapt to climate change. The summit's president, Alok Sharma, told reporters at a news conference he understood protesters' frustration. "I think we have overall made progress," Sharma said Saturday. "I think people have been constructive in the negotiating rooms." "We are getting to the point where the rubber hits the road, where we're going to have to make, tough decisions by government officials," he said. "I certainly do not, underestimate the difficulty of the task which is ahead of us." A Democratic and Republican delegation of U.S. senators were visiting the summit on Saturday. And British actor Idris Elba brought his star power to the UN talks, highlighting the importance of helping small farmers cope with global warming. Elba, known for roles such as the HBO series The Wire and BBC One's Luther, said he wanted to highlight the disruption to global food chains as small farmers in particular are hit by erratic seasonal rains, drought and other impacts of climate change. This conversation around food is something that needs to be really amplified, and one thing I've got is a big mouth, said Elba, adding that 80% of the food consumed worldwide is produced by small-scale farmers. Saturday's march drew a range of participants and ages, a day after tens of thousands of young people in the Fridays for Future movement protested outside the conference's steel fences. Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, 18, on Friday branded the UN climate talks in Glasgow a failure so far, accusing leaders of purposefully creating loopholes in the rules and giving misleading pictures of their country's actual emissions. Thunberg's mix of school strikes, blunt and impatient talk about government excuses, and mass demonstrations have galvanized climate protests since 2018, especially in Europe. The climate protest movement, and worsening droughts, storms, floods, wildfires and other disasters around the world this year, have brought home to many the accelerating damage of global warming and have kept the pressure on governments for stronger and faster action to reduce fossil fuel emissions. In central London, hundreds of climate protesters marched from the Bank of England to Trafalgar Square. Protester Sue Hampton, 64, said everyone is at risk and all generations need to press for action. We can't let the young people do all the work here. We've all got to do it together, she said. In Istanbul, climate protesters brought their children to the demonstration Saturday, emphasizing the impact of global warming on future generations. I want my children to live on a beautiful planet in the future, said Kadri Yavasit, 52, in Istanbul. Danica Kika in London, Seth Borenstein in Glasgow and Andrew Wilkes in Istanbul contributed to this report.